Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday. I'll give everyone a few moments to join. Please let me know if you can hear okay, if the volume is good, and if you can see me as well. And then from here, we'll go ahead and I'll do a quick intro and then we'll start taking questions. There's always a delay on my end of a few seconds. Perfect. All right. I got the first confirmation. Let's give it a couple more seconds and then I'll go ahead and get started. All right. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so my name is Tiffany Ashton. And I'm the Director of Operations here at ClinEssentials, as well as I have been in the clinical research industry for now 21 years. Previously, I have been a CRC. I have also been a CRA, unblinded and blinded CRA. I have also been a unblinded CTM, as well as a full-blown CTM and a project manager. I've worked on both sponsor and CRO side from phase 1 all the way through phase 4 and almost any indication you can think of: rare disease, women's health, gene therapy, oncology, etc. And currently, I am also the instructor of the Clinical Trial Manager Training Program. Um, and I teach CTAs, CRCs, CRAs, as well as entry level CTMs to uh, do the CTM role inside and out, from study startup all the way through study closeout. And from time to time, I do these sessions here on LinkedIn to give my audience an opportunity to ask questions. I have done 4 of these LinkedIn Lives previously, and within this page, you'll be able to find those on YouTube so you can review those as well. So let's go ahead and get started. How I usually do it is I will just go in order the questions that I see, and I will just answer the questions. And if there is a question that was previously answered, I will skip that, but I will let you know that you can review a little bit earlier in the session so you can get that response. I try to be as detailed as possible, but I do have to be mindful of the time. So if I talk a little fast, forgive me. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to send me a LinkedIn message, and then I'll get back to you there and just clarify. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, hello everyone. All right, hi Liz. Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, who has the first question? I see a lot of hellos and welcomes. I'm glad everyone is joining and here. Definitely, I like to drop a lot of gems. I like to make sure that your time is not wasted. So feel free to ask away. Yes, you can go ahead and type in the questions because I'm not able to call on anyone live through the platform that I'm using. Hello, Cheryl. Yeah, closed caption. Yep, yes, you can. Okay, let's see. I would like to know how to transition into this career path. Okay, well, welcome. Let me be the first introduction to it. One of the things for anyone who is looking to transition to clinical research, you have to learn what we do and why we do it, and a little bit about the process of like the steps that brings a drug or a device to market. So one of the things that I always urge people to do is spend a little time online, YouTube, Google. What is clinical research? What is a clinical trial? What is good clinical practice? Good clinical practice is our foundation, our rules and regulations, but we also have some others. You want to start going down different rabbit holes. Oh, what is this? What is that? Learning about clinical research. What is phase one? What is phase two? What is phase three? What is phase four? What is a healthy volunteer? What is a patient? All of those things is important to know about our industry. That gives you the foundation. So starting there, and then there are various courses that you can take that are free, that you can learn about good clinical practice, learn about human participants and IRBs. There's lots of things that you can do. We also have a clinical research intro to clinical research guide on our ClinEssentials.com website, where you could also help and kind of guide you with the roadmap. That's an option as well. But basically, you want to start learning about the key players in the industry. What is a pharmaceutical company? What is a CRO? What is a site? You have to learn about us. And then from there, once you learn about us, then you can start learning about the roles that you may want to be interested in pursuing. Do you want to be a clinical research coordinator, a CRA, a CTM? You want to be in quality. So there's a lot of paths that you can take, but you just got to get started and you have to start learning. You cannot expect someone to take a chance on you if you do not come with at least a foundation of some information. So even though some roles will say we'll take entry level, those without any kind of experience, do yourself a favor to set you apart from other candidates by at least learning what phase 1 through 4 is, what is an IRB, what is an ICF, because then that's things that they don't have to teach you, and then they'll be willing more to learn, take a chance on you and give you an opportunity in our industry. Perfect. I always do that question a little bit more detail because that's a question that we always get. Um, all right. Next question. In your experience, what advice would you give to a CRC that is trying to make the transition to CRA or CTM? Okay. The biggest one is network. You are seeing CRAs come to your office every 4 to 6 weeks for their monitoring visits. Network with them, talk to them, express your interest about, moving to the CRA world. Some will be more friendly than others. You can't approach everyone, but the ones that you can approach, you do want to approach those and just say, hey, please keep me in mind if you have any openings or if there's any potential where they'll take an experienced CRC to become an entry level CRA at your company. I would love to transition to the CRA. That simple conversation can open up a lot of opportunity. I remember when I was thinking about making my transition as a CRC to the CRA, I was talking to a lot of my monitors. And there was one in particular who was very supportive and put in a good word with her manager because I was very responsive as a CRC. I was, on top of my game. And so she saw those were good qualities. So if you're going to do that, also make sure that you are a good CRC so they can give that referral in confidence. Yes, this is one of my best sites, my best CRCs. She's always responsive. She's always on top of it. Her data is pristine. That's what they're looking for. CTM, about the same. You do want to connect with your CTMs. Now, not every company will take a senior level CRC to be an entry level CTM, but there are opportunities. I have had senior level CRCs be in my clinical trial manager course, and they, after getting the knowledge of what the CTM has to do, and then applying to the companies that would accept a senior CRC, they did make that transition. That's not an everyday transition, but it is possible. But the biggest thing there is the knowledge, because there's a lot of differences between CRC and the CTM. The step that's a little bit easier is CRA, but CRA is very sought after. So it takes a little bit of strategy, and you may have to reach out to me afterwards to kind of talk a little bit more about your specific scenario. All right. Would you share your insight into why this industry is so difficult to break into? Hmm. Well, it's it's a hidden secret, I can tell you that. Um, I didn't even know about it when I first got into clinical research. I didn't even know this existed. I didn't even know all of this was going on. So that's one thing. It's not publicized. So when something's not publicized, it's not something that your schooling has like a clinical research track where you that's a whole degree that you can take, and they expose you to all the key players and internships and all of those things. Now they have started to do that, but when I started 21 years ago, that wasn't the case. So it's not very known. And then I think a lot of it is um not a lot of people are sharing their experiences. And so that's why I like to come here and share my experience. Ask me questions, because I was given the opportunity to be a part of this industry by because I asked questions and I was curious and interested. So it's not necessarily hard to break into, it's more so learning from someone who knows the ropes. And so that could be me, it could be anyone else, someone that is familiar, and you can take a similar path. But once you actually learn about our industry and know where to look, it's it's really easy from there. But you have to know the pieces to put together. And if you don't know the pieces, then that's what makes it more difficult. So I definitely say seek out people that are very familiar and willing to share their experience. Because once you do that, I've worked with people that were brand new, knew nothing about the industry. And after 6 months, a year, were able to get some entry level positions to get their foot in the door. It doesn't take long, but you do have to be on the right path. All right. I want to transition from regulatory to CTM, but having a very difficult time in this transition. What can I do to make this transition? Okay. So, one of the things that I have seen, and it's not just with this role, but I mean, from regulatory to CTM, but it could be from quality to CTM or from CRC to CTM, any kind of transition. The key is to highlight the skills of the role that you want to go into. So you're in regulatory. What things in regulatory do you do that the CTM currently does? And those are the things that you need to be highlighting on your resume when you are applying for CTM jobs. But the other thing is, you have to make sure that that CTM job you're applying to would allow someone with your background into it. Reading the job descriptions are very, very, very key. Sometimes they'll say we need someone with a bachelor's degree. We need them with 2 years of prior clinical trial management experience. We need them to have, phase one experience. They can get very specific in what they're looking for. That's some roles. Other roles, we are looking for a bachelor's degree. We are looking for someone who has been within the clinical research realm and understands the intricacies of clinical research. That particular job description and that qualification, you would fit as regulatory, given if you have been in for 2 years. So you have to look at the wording. Some jobs, they're flexible. Other jobs, they're not flexible. They need you to be familiar with the CTM role because they need you to hit the ground running day one. Others, they're more flexible. So, what I would really say for you is reach out to me, because I definitely think that your resume needs to be optimized, but also we may need to look at some of the job descriptions that you're applying to. And then more importantly, you may need to get the training on the CTM role, because again, you can get through the process. When they call you for an interview, are you familiar with what the CTM role what you have to do as a CTM? So I would also, that's my question to you. And that's, you want to set yourself up for success. You can go into CTM. There's ways to bridge that gap, but are you ready for the CTM role? Because it is different than regulatory. All right. I'm transitioning to clinical research, but previously worked as RA and project manager. How do you think I could leverage those experiences to break through? So same thing. You want to look at what role in clinical research do you want to be in? Um, do not apply to everything under the sun with the same resume. That is it's not good. So you always have to get laser focused on what role you want to be in. Do you want to be a clinical research coordinator? Do you want to be a clinical research associate? Do you want to be a clinical trial assistant? Do you want to be a CTM? Do you want to be in regulatory? Do you want to be in quality? Which role do you want to be in? The way that you highlight your skills for those different roles is going to be different. And so you want to get, if let's just say you want to be a CTM, as you having prior project management experience, you want to highlight what did you do as a prior project manager that correlates to what a CTM might do. So did you lead a cross-functional team? Did you lead meetings and trainings? Did you have any risk mitigation and you had to come up with solutions for potential risks? Did you manage timelines? Did you manage budgets? If you did that in your previous role, and that's what the current role is going to have you do, then that's how you show those similarities. And so it's more so you always want to look at the job description for the job that you want to go into, and then make your resume highlight whatever skills that you've done. You need to tap into the skills that is on the job description for the role that you're trying to go into. So also that may take a little a one-on-one session to talk about that, but reach out to me there. No one size fits all. Everyone, as you can see, has different backgrounds. And so there needs to be formats that are tailored for you. We are in Canada, part of hospital sponsor IIT that is Health Canada regulated. Our PI is retiring from clinical practice and so can no longer be the PI who will sign off on or supervise. We are in the process of identifying and onboarding a new um, QI, and that might just be in Canada. They use QI versus PI. What is the proper process? So, and your IIT, so hospital sponsor IIT. So you want to look at if you guys have SOPs. You may not have SOPs because this may be a new scenario, but basically everything needs to be documented. This PI is leaving on this date. The study will be assigned to this new person. So for the new person, you need to make sure you have everything that you had in place for the PI. You have to have a new contract, new CV, new GCP, financial disclosure forms. If you do that in Canada, all of the paperwork needs to be transferred over. If you're working, sometimes as an IIT, you're working with maybe an outside pharmaceutical company who's supplying your drug. If so, you need to let them know as well. But it has to be very detailed. So it's a clear picture. This person left at this time. This new person started at this time. And then you have to look at all things that may have had the outgoing PI's information on. It needs to be updated. So the protocol, your IRB and REB submission documents. Everything across the board has to be updated with your new PI. And you do want to make sure that they are equivalent and can do the proper oversight and safety for the patients that are continuing in the study. So that's one of the things that I can say. Documentation is required. Yeah, everything needs to be documented. Everything that has your old PI needs to be updated with your new PI's information. Timelines for filing documents with Health Canada. You would need to confirm with Health Canada. Just call them and just say, hey, this is the scenario. They'll let you know what their timelines are. Yes, you would need to make a mass correspondence to inform other participating sites. What are the training they would need to have? So training, I mean, protocol training, safety training, all the training that the study coordinators would have and the PI had, that new person would need to. Everything needs to be the same. They are literally walking in to start to take over the study. So that's what has to happen there. Good question. All right. I have a question. I apply for so many jobs, but it's so hard to get through to recruiters. Do you have any tips for that? Okay. Good question. Good question. So, the job market has been tough in the last 18 months. So, it may not be just you, it's everybody. When people, I have heard, even myself, during earlier in the last 12 months, I was looking for my next contract and I reached out to 50 different openings. I got 3 callbacks. Probably 4 years before, I got 12 calls within 24 hours of submitting like 3 resumes. And I'm like, how did 12 people call me? I only sent out for 3. So the market has slowed for everyone, whether you're experienced, whether you're new, because there's so many people in the market. The biggest thing is standing out, making sure your resume is properly formatted. That is the biggest thing. A lot of the resumes that I see, they have a lot of graphics, they have a lot of boxes, they have pictures. The ATS system doesn't like that. Then I've seen company resumes being used where literally people have taken their previous company's resume and they're shopping that around. That's not good either. They may have some information on their resume that is not speaking to the role that they're applying to. They may be applying to roles that they don't qualify for. So it could be a number of reasons. I'm not sure on what your one particular reason is, but there is some tips. There's definitely some tips that can be done. We have a upcoming next week. I think it's going to be released. It's a clinical research job guide book, and it talks about the 4-prong approach to navigating this job market. And I'll give you just a precursor. Number 1 is making sure you have a resume, the right resume. In it has pro tips and a resume template that you can use. Number 2, make sure you have the knowledge. Make sure that the role that you're applying to, you could successfully do. And that's going to come through in your resume based off of things that you've done before. Number 3, it's where you're looking. A lot of people are only looking on LinkedIn, and that's hard. Everyone's looking on LinkedIn. You got to diversify. And number 4, you got to tap into your network. So network, network, network. You're doing good by being on LinkedIn, engaging in this live, but continue to engage, continue to connect. So recruiters, they have been kind of dormant for a little bit because they didn't have a lot of roles. And so they weren't showing a lot of activity. But now we're seeing a lot more activity on LinkedIn. I'm seeing a lot more callbacks. People are getting callbacks. People are wanting to get mock interview, work with me for mock interviews, looking at resumes. There's a lot of more movement now in the industry. So first things first, I would take a look at how's your resume and what roles are you applying to? And are you suited for those roles? And is your resume optimized? If you're still thinking that those 2 things are good and you still are not sure, let me know. If you're thinking that, hey, maybe I need to tweak either one of those, let me know as well. That's usually the root cause for a lot of people. And my biggest thing, I just talked to the CTM students on Wednesday. I said, if you've applied for over 20 positions and no hits, no callbacks, no nothing, we need to take a step back and let's look at what we're using to apply for and look at the roles we're applying to. So that's good advice. So that's for anybody who's looking. There's people that are still getting placed. There's companies that are hiring. There's thousands of companies in the United States. A lot of people only look at IQVIA, PPD, Parexel, Cineos, but what about all the others? And so everyone's applying to the big ones, but what about the medium to mid-size to small ones? All of those companies are out there, sites looking for study coordinators. There's a lot of opportunity. You just have to know where to look. So be on the lookout for that job guide because that may help. Also, if you're having anyone having trouble with interviewing, a part of the job guide links to an interview series where you can get interview videos and how to do your pre-interview research and how to ask specific questions at the end of your interview, how to answer questions, how to also answer tell me about yourself question, how that should go. So a lot of good information there that may be helpful for you. Does entry level really exist in clinical research? It does, but you have to come with something. You cannot walk right off the street and say, I know nothing about clinical research, give me a job. Because what a clinical research site, let's say, would say to you is like, we don't have time to teach you everything. Do you know the acronyms? Do you know what a phase one study is? Do you know you got to come with something, the basics? So entry level is there, but you have to take it a step further and equip yourself so you can be an asset to a team and not be a person where they have to teach you every step of the way because clinical research is busy. And some companies have the bandwidth to train. Other companies, you're learning as you go and you're just trying to figure it out. But you also have to have that willpower to be able to research and be inquisitive to find it on your own and not wait for somebody to handhold it. So yes, there are entry level positions, but if you see an entry level position, let's just look at two people. Entry level with nothing, knows not one thing about clinical research. Entry level, they never worked the clinical research role, but they know about phase 1 through 4. They know about GCP. They know about the acronyms. They're going to take this person every time because there's probably 2 months of learning that they have to teach just to get this person who doesn't know anything to this level of acronyms, what is the phase 1, all of those things. They don't have the time to spend that 2 months. So even if you have no previous roles, just spending time learning is going to be so helpful and set you apart from someone else that goes into an interview and says, I don't know what an ICF is. And they're like, okay, well, if you don't know, we don't have time to tell you. I'm sorry. And that's how they think. They're like, we don't know. So that's one thing that I will tell you. So how does one transition if the entry level clinical research jobs ain't what it is? Well, the other thing is you want to be realistic. So when you're coming in, some entry points, research assistant, clinical research coordinator, you could be recruitment, you could be marketing at a site. There's so many roles that you can do at a site. You have to get your foot in the door. Don't say, oh, well, it's not a CRA position, it's not a CTM position. None of us started as a CTM. I was a CRC for 4 years. I learned so much. And the amount of information I learned as a CRC makes me so much more powerful as a CTM because I understand the site workings. So I could say, hey, have you guys thought of this? I did this. There's so much more information that I have. You got to get your foot in the door. When you get your foot in the door, you could be a lab assistant. You could help draw blood. You can do, there's a lot of things. You can help with recruitment, going through medical records. There's so many options. You can do regulatory binders. But again, learn about those roles, learn what they do, and learn at least the basic level. So if they give you a regulatory role and they say organize this investigator site file, also known as a regulatory binder, 1572s need to go here, they need to go in reverse chronological order. You know what's going on there. That's what's going to help you get in the door. Also, if you're able to volunteer, volunteer 10 hours a week. That you can do that for 3 months. When they learn your work ethic, if there's a job opening and you are wanting to do it, you've been volunteering, you're going to be the first person that they look to if you are working out, because you've been volunteering and giving your time and they know about you. So that's another way in. You just got to be flexible. Okay, here's a few questions to get you all started. Okay, please add entry level, what skills or certifications? What skills or certifications should an entry level professional focus on to excel in the clinical research field? So, good clinical practice, learning about the drug development process, learning about phase 1 through 4 studies, also learning acronyms. Not all of those are actual certificate programs, but you can find out a lot of it via YouTube, Google. Can you share some advice on how to build credibility and establish a network in the early stages of your clinical research career? This is a good one. So I just recently got on LinkedIn myself within the last 3 years. And so before I was like, oh, what's this LinkedIn? I don't know. But it's amazing the connections. It's amazing the things that have been learned and the people that I respond to and talk to all over the world. So definitely get in on LinkedIn. It's great. Network with everyone. Network with people that are of the same sentiment online. They're saying the same things that you're saying. They're in the roles that you would like to be. Connect when you go to different events, investigators meetings, conferences. Get people's contact information. Have coffee chats. Join different events like this, live events, free events. Also join different groups if that's what you want to do as well. Just network, because you never know who you have in your network, and you guys can lean on each other and you can learn a lot. A lot of times we are working solo and independently in clinical research. And so it's like a breath of fresh air when we talk to someone else and we're like, oh, you're experiencing this too? Wow. Okay, great. Oh, I thought it was only me. What do you do to do this? Or how are you navigating this? It's like really good. So make sure that you get in and network on LinkedIn. Go to those conferences that you can, go to the free events, go to join different networks online, all of those things to, build your community. What are the most common mistakes new professionals make in clinical trials, and how can they avoid them? Um, mistakes, here's the general sentiment about mistakes. Mistakes are learning experiences. Now, hopefully, your mistake can be small, on a smaller scale, and not major, but they will happen. They will happen along the way. I've made plenty of little mistakes here, there, nothing that was like major that ended my career, but you all want to know that mistakes do happen. The biggest thing is when a mistake happens, you learn from it. Don't run away from it. Don't say, well, that wasn't my problem. What happened? Oh, we didn't process those samples. We forgot all about those patient samples that we drew, and we left them there overnight, and now they're no longer good. We got to call the patient in. Admit that mistake. Admit it. Just say, hey, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, you're going to have to come in. Your samples, unfortunately, they weren't processed in time, and we got to get you to draw them again. You made the mistake, you admitted it. The patient, hopefully Mr. Smith can come back in, but I bet you moving forward, you probably won't make that mistake again. You're going to be extra diligent in that regard. You may put an extra stop on yourself. Okay, I'm going to make sure I circle back around over here and check, double check before I leave. Mistakes happen in order for you to come with a new solution to avoid it in the future. But when you run from the mistakes, then it's a little bit harder. So just know that they will happen. Always use it as a learning experience. Never beat yourself up. There's usually a way around it. We just have to sit there and think. Sometimes it costs more money, sometimes it costs more effort, but usually when you go through that exercise, you don't make that mistake again. So that's another thing. Okay, perfect. Those are good questions, Liz. How to break into this field if you're applying for the first time. I've been trying for the last few months with no break. Okay, so again, we kind of talked about it above, but the one thing is I would look at your resume, also look at the roles that you're applying to. Also, a lot of people think that I might be crazy for this one, but you might have to go in to a research site. If you're a clinical research coordinator and you want to get no, if you're trying to break into a clinical research coordinator role, you might just have to take your resume and go old fashioned and go in and talk to an office manager. Present yourself, present your resumes, tell them that you are looking to be break into the industry. Is there any entry level roles that they would consider if you're open to volunteering? But also in that introduction, you need to say, I'm very familiar with the acronyms of research. I'm very familiar with the phases. Don't go in there if you don't know the what's going on in clinical research, because that's going to be really like in your face. You're not behind a computer at that point. So do your research from local sites, but that would be another suggestion for you guys. I really yes, okay, this is very helpful. Thank you. Um okay, let me look. I'm looking for the next question. Okay. What roles do you recommend for a clinical research nurse who is trying to transition from a research institute of a hospital into industry? Um, well, there's a lot of roles. So you just have to look what roles are you interested in? You may clinical research nurse. Pharmacovigilance could be one where you process SAE reports and other pregnancy reports and adverse events of special interest. Usually, they want someone to have like a medical nursing background. So that's one. You could go into clinical trial manager at some companies depending on some. So I've worked at smaller sponsor companies that their whole project management staff was from like academia. So some companies will take academia experience, but you have to read the job descriptions. You have to know where to look. You could go into, if you want to go into the CRA role, looking at what their job description or requirements are there. Networking, that's going to be the biggest thing. A lot of people underestimate networking. You can know a really good person and say, I know they can do this job. And your manager says, like, hey, we're looking for somebody that can fill this job. Do you know anybody? And you're like, yeah, I do. So networking goes a long way too. So those are just a few, but you really need to know what you want to do and then what resonates to you. So like if you want to be quality, maybe quality at IQVIA you don't qualify for, but maybe quality at Premier Research you qualify for. So you have to keep comparing the same role at different companies too. That's going to be helpful. I'm seeing a lot of entry level positions requiring 1 to 3 years of direct experience. However, many current professionals transition from non research or non scientific roles. I have a science background, a MS in clinical research, and I'm networking and finding mentors. Any thoughts on navigating? That particular one is that volunteer. If you can get some volunteer time, that would definitely help that direct experience, at least helping towards that 1 year. Um, let's see, what else would I say for that? Uh, t- 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 mm, so networking, I would also say the other thing that I would say for that particular thing is Mm, networking, but networking with with like directors of clinical research and some higher ups that make some of those decisions where they like you're showing the knowledge. Again, you're having coffee chats. Anyone that's in a hiring position, if you have the right conversation with them, if you show promise, if you have the knowledge and that you can show that you're going to come in and be a real good team player, they can take a chance. You're looking for someone that's going to take a chance on you. So the question to you, and you might have to follow up with me afterwards, is the role. What are your role expectations? Where are you open to coming in as a clinical research coordinator? Or are you wanting to only come in as a CRA? If you're only wanting to come in as a CRA, you will have a roadblock because that CRA is not an entry level position. But it depends on what role you are looking for. But more so, you want to find the people that are making those decisions, those hiring managers that can take a chance on different individuals or volunteer as well. So you can get some of that experience. Volunteer, a lot of startups, they'll love to take some volunteers to help them um, until they get some studies under their belt or multiple studies. And if you're able to be, a really good team player during that time, they're not going to forget you when it comes to they have a lot of studies and now they can hire someone full time. Please give several examples of how to recruit for an excellent CTM. Um, Excellent CTM. So you want to hire a CTM? So let's just say you want to hire a CTM. You're looking for someone that, um, let's see, this is a good question. Okay, so if you're looking for someone that has some experience in clinical research, so they cannot be brand new because there's a lot of nuances and they need to know who the key players are. You also want to find someone that is flexible, that shows leadership qualities, that would be a good speaker, good presenter. Those are some of the things. So some interviews nowadays, they ask a CTM to present on a particular topic. How would you boost recruitment on this phase 3 pediatric epilepsy study? And they give them that and they have to present them. I would say have them give a presentation. In that presentation, you're learning their time management skills, their ability to lead and present, their ability to get straight to the point because that's needed during the study team calls. So these are some things. If you are in need of some good, ready to go CTMs, I have plenty of CTM graduates. I have trained over 200 CTMs in the last 2 years. So we have them. So definitely connect. I work with a lot of CROs and pharmaceutical companies that take our graduates who are open in the market and place them and they're ready to go. So they get a lot of training, a lot of hands-on training with me so that you'll be in good hands. Um, Yes, this is there a difference between a clinical trial associate and a clinical trial assistant? Yes. A CTA, a clinical trial assistant, works right alongside the CTM, like their right hand. They do more so communications, supply management, access management, writing agendas, meeting minutes, ETMF management. That's what the CTA does. They work right alongside the CTM. So most CTAs go to the CTM role as their next career. CTA, then they go to CTM because they've been working so closely together. The CT clinical trial associate, also known as clinical research associate or CRA. So a lot of companies use different acronyms. So clinical trial associate, CRA. Um, those are the ones that go out and audit and monitor at the site level to make sure that the data was collected appropriately and that the patients remain safe. So those are travelers. Those are out there traveling auditors are the CRAs. And then the CTAs, they're in-house and they work right alongside the CTM. Good question. As a clinical research coordinator in India and will be relocating to the United States soon. Since I came from a foreign background, I would like to advise on how to navigate this career transition to clinical research. What steps should I take to prepare myself for this move and increase my chances? Looking for a CTA role. Okay, so networking, understanding the landscape of the market in the state that you're going to go to or surrounding states. If you're in a clinical research coordinator, even if you're in India, there are a lot of international companies that are in India that are also in the US. Seeing even if there's a company that has a sister office in India that's in the US that you could be a part of. CTA position, yes, that would be a good transition from CRC to CTA, learning about what the CTA does. So you're very familiar. And when you are interviewing, you can say, yes, I'm familiar with creating agendas, creating PowerPoints, creating meeting minutes, mass communication, ETMF management. If those are things that you're not familiar with now, you want to get familiar with on your own regard so you can talk about it during your interview. And then let's see, I would say just be looking, keeping an eye out what companies are hiring for CTAs between now and when your move is, keeping a lookout there so you can go ahead and apply when you get here. Start ahead of time. It could take some time, your adjustment in the United States, and then also to go ahead and get into the workforce. So set realistic expectations too. It may not happen in 2 weeks, it may not happen in 1 month, but there are things that you can do. Make sure you're maximizing your resume. All of these things you can do to prepare yourself. Okay. Let me see. How how do you know that what pay raise you qualify for? I'm graduating with my MPH in August and have both CRC and management experience, but I will only be 3 years post-bachelor's, and I'm having trouble deciding which position I should apply. Well, that's number one. You have to know what positions you want to be in. Um, and not necessarily which pay range you qualify for. It's where do you want to be? So first, what role resonates with you? Which role is going to help you roll out of bed and you're like, oh, I can't wait to get to work today? What role is that? Then you look at the job qualifications for that role. What are they requiring for that role? And then from there, you do want to make sure it's within your salary expectations. But also, a lot of people, when they're coming, they may be a MD, they may be a nurse, they may be a dentist, there may be coming from other high paying industries and they're coming into clinical research. Remember, at clinical research, you're now at the lower point. You have to work your way back up. So, and that's okay. You do still have those degrees. It's not going to be a long time, but you can't say, well, as a dentist, I was making 200,000. I'm expecting to make 200,000 at my first job in clinical research. That's not going to happen. Maybe after a few years you can get there, but that you also have to make sure you're setting realistic expectations. So, when you have previous management experience, you have your master's in public health. My question to you is, what is your job? What is your pay range expectation? And then from there, we have to see if that's going to be what can be given to someone that's coming into the industry new. Because that also, a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm bummed out, but everyone has to start somewhere. When I started, I probably was getting paid the lowest as a clinical research coordinator. I was $10 an hour when I started, but those 4 years of experience, priceless. So those are the kind of things you got to know that as well. How do you prepare yourself for clinical research within medical devices? Yeah, so there are some specific companies that work with medical devices solely. NAMSA is one that you can look at. NAMSA is a CRO specifically for medical devices. Now, I would ask, what role are you interested in? All my questions always relate to what role are you guys interested in? What resonates with you? That I would say, look on their website or look on other medical device companies for the role that interests you. And then look in the job requirements. What are they asking you to have? That's where you kind of orient yourself if you're like, I want to go to medical device specifically. There's medical devices, they have ISO guidelines that they follow and some other guidelines. So there's some things that are a little bit different, but you need to know what their qualifications are so you can know how to navigate within their realm. So that would be some of what I would say, but you need to learn about medical devices. How is medical devices from drug studies? What is the difference? What is the life cycle to getting a medical device approved? It is going to be different than pharmaceutical drugs. So you got to learn about that, the knowledge. I have a background as a project manager with clinical trials. Can I jump to CRA directly? Okay, you've seen this responsibilities. Okay, so the question, so typically project manager is the next level up from CTM. Or no, yeah, and so CRA, CTM, project manager. But some companies use CTM and PM interchangeably. So you're already up here as a PM and you want to go back down to CRA, or were you on the site side as a project manager and want to go up to a CRA? So that's my question based off of that. So do you want to go to be a CRA and you've been a project manager like in charge of an entire study, or have you been a project manager on the site side in charge of projects on the site side? The biggest thing, if you want to make that switch to the CRA, you gotta talk to your line manager, but it depends on where you're at. So there's a different strategy. So I need a little bit more information, Paula, so I can navigate you, but I need to know, are you a PM on the site side or a PM on like the project manager on the pharmaceutical CRO side, so I can guide you accordingly, because the strategy would be different depending there. Let's see. ATS is the automatic, what is it? It's the system that for resumes, when you upload your resumes and apply for jobs on different companies, it's the applicant tracking software. And so a lot of times, if you're not speaking the language of the applicant tracking software, it will immediately, sometimes you'll apply for a role and it says immediately, you do not qualify. And you're like, I mean, it's midnight. Who's over there watching? Like it's because the ATS system, whatever you may have tried to apply to, it scans your resume so quickly that you didn't have key terms, you didn't have what was programmed into the system as what they were looking for. So the ATS system is helping to shortlist resumes. So you apply for a job, and this is not at all companies, but the bigger companies that use this system. You apply for a job, it goes into the system, and then the ATS system is is scanning it real quick. CTM, does it has any CTM qualities? CRA, does it have CRA qualities? We're looking for phase one. And if it doesn't, boom, it will say, up, you didn't qualify. And it's like, wait, no, who looked at my resume? So that is what a lot of people are experiencing. And then those that do qualify, then maybe a HR person or a recruiter will look at this now smaller stack of applicants to really go through it with a fine tooth comb. But a lot of people are not getting through the ATS system to begin with. And so that's why I always say, how is your resume formatted? What key terms are you on there? What positions are you applying to? That's usually the reason why there's trouble there. Good question. Let me see. Where's my next question? Okay, so thanks. What are some examples of mid-sized CROs? I'm currently in a university setting and CROs are less familiar to me. Premier Research, Aura Clinical, NAMSA. There's a lot of it's basically the step down from the big ones that we know. Icon, IQVIA, Cineos. The next level is usually mid-size. You can Google mid-size CROs and you'll get a list of them. And there's probably a cursor of when they cut them off and when they consider them big versus little. But there's a lot of them. You'll be surprised. Trial runners. There's a lot of companies that are out there that are CROs that you're not even familiar with. Let's see. Got a couple more. I recently graduated and would like to switch my career into clinical research. Most of the positions, such as CRA, CTC, are asking for the experience. Could you please suggest me any free courses or documents or areas where I can get real time? So I would say you may want to look into trying to volunteer. One of the things that you do have to be careful with is degrees only in our industry don't mean you're going to get hired. You could have 4 degrees, 5 degrees, 6 degrees. If you don't have any clinical research experience, that doesn't mean that they're going to hire you for certain roles. You got to get in and get that experience. Now, there are some degrees and certificates that will help you do your job well, but that's one thing that you do have to realize about our industry. You got to get in and find the roles. So I would definitely say you probably should start either as a research assistant, CRC, CTA, to get your foot in the door, and then you can navigate up to the role that you ultimately want to be in. But no one starts in their ultimate role. They have to navigate there. Now, free courses, what role do you want to be in? That's the question. There's courses that are specific to each role. There's courses, so I need a little bit more information because you want to be streamlined now. You have a master's in clinical drug development. We got to get it more streamlined now. Like you got to get what is going to work for you, and it may not be courses. It may just be actually getting that experience. So you might have to start volunteering. You got to get in there somewhere. Let's see. I see Liz in here helping me out. Can you guys, it's a network. Okay. This might be the last question. Can you give some tips how to network in clinical trials? I'm going to say that you're networking just to have more people in your, like more connections. LinkedIn, when you're on LinkedIn, engage in post. That's how you can connect. You can connect with the post, the person that actually posted the post. You can also connect with those people that are in the comments, but use LinkedIn actively. Like, don't just scroll LinkedIn and just, oh yeah, okay, this is what they post, but actually get involved in the conversation. My first podcast came from a post that I talked about, how did you get into clinical research? And one of the people that listened or was on that post was Brad Hightower, and invited me to note to file. But it was only because he was engaged in LinkedIn, I was engaged in LinkedIn, and then from there it started opening up, more conversations. It gave me the confidence to post more and share my experience. So that's the biggest thing. Get involved, start having conversations, start liking stuff, have coffee chats with people, go to conferences, join free groups. There's a lot of free resources out there. You just got to take advantage of them. Some things you don't want to always just get stuff when you need it. Start being proactive and getting yourself that continuing resource that you can use now or maybe 2 years from now. But in that, you're going to meet new people and different things like that. Okay, so that is right at the top of the hour. I'm going to go through the ones that I didn't get to and just put some comments on LinkedIn right under your post. If I did tell you to reach out to me because I need more information, definitely send me a direct message. Resources. So the ClinEssentials.com website, we have articles, really good articles about different topics. If you go to our resource library, we have free downloadable checklists, all kind of checklists of how you can do your job better, whether you're a CRC, CTM, CRA. So you have free checklists. Resources, we have career coaching. So if you want to schedule a 30-minute one-on-one session with either myself or another clinical research professional, we have career coaching. In that, you can do resume review, mock interview. We can talk about your career progression. And then you can also join me for CTM training. If you want to be a CTM in the future, or if you're struggling in the CTM role now, I can help. And then lastly, we have our ebooks. So we have a new ebook coming out next week on our job search guide, and that has the resume templates and the 4-prong approach. And then we already have the one that's out on the intro to clinical research to help you navigate. So there's a lot of resources that we have at ClinEssentials. There's others in the industry that have them. And then you have also on our YouTube channel at ClinEssentials.com, you can see videos of different topics that I am talking about clinical research on as well. So there's a lot of things at your fingertips. You just got to know where to look and go grab them, because these things, we put them out to help you save time, to help navigate your career so you don't have any wasted time in your career journey. So definitely get them. They're out there. And then if you enjoyed this, come see me again in December, on December 13th, same time. I'm going to be doing another one of these sessions, another Q&A for an hour, and just continuing to answer questions there. So thanks everyone for joining. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, weekend, and holiday season if I don't talk to you beforehand. All right, bye.